What's up there, boys and girls? This is the Christian Mike Show, broadcasting live on the YouTube, and we're coming to you kind of live from the We Fix Ugly Pools studio, where installation, creation, and complete backyard creation is possible. Call We Fix Ugly Pools at 602-253-4199.
4499.
4499. It's been a while. It's been a while, man.
Let's repeat that.
Okay, hey, we are coming to you live from the We Fix Ugly Pools studios, from installation, renovation, and complete backyard creation. We Fix Ugly Pools does it all at wefixuglypools.com, 602-253-4499.
Nicely done. Welcome, Brian.
Hey,
Nice to meet
thanks
you.
for having me.
Absolutely. Very nice to meet you, man.
So Brian and I go way back. We go way back. Like, I was watching the Diamondbacks, and the night before there's a monsoon, and my grill went into the pool. So we, in the morning, got up and pulled everything out, and when I pulled the grill mat up, the entire bottom of the pool had the two grill grates, and it rusted the bottom of the pool. So the following night, legit, I'm at home watching the Diamondbacks play, and a We Fix Ugly Pools commercial comes on. So I call the number.
Oh, this is awesome.
And he answers the phone, and so I start talking about what my thing is, and then somehow he brings up he's the owner. I'm like, wait, you're the owner? You're answering your own phone? He's like,
I remember doing that, ordering guitar lessons out of the back of a magazine
Right?
one year. And the dude, I was living in Phoenix, and the dude that was in the ad answered the phone. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
That's an awesome story, man.
And we've been friends ever since. Because then
That's
we
even
Well, I used to
better.
watch the games because I knew what inning the rotation was coming up behind the home plate, and it was always
Yeah.
exciting to see how many phone calls would come in. So
Right.
we would sit there and have like a pizza party during the games at the office. I just happened to field that call. It was kind of cool.
It was really cool because here we are. Like, that's got to be fuck, dude.
Did you ever take
2005, 20
was-
years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago. And
Yeah,
Did
and
you ever
it was-
take a tally, like, of what the difference was, or like a grand total of, what the most calls was during that segment?
We had one half inning. We took 230 calls.
Wow.
We used to get drunk fraternities that would call us. People would call us. You got to remember, 2005. Not everybody had a cell phone, so it was
Right.
still pretty new.
Yeah.
But
Right.
people would call us and be like, and I mean, they would say the most random stuff. But we got into some pretty cool conversations with people and across the country, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. What's even cooler is the Diamondbacks came in 2001, right?
Yeah, it was an inaugural. No, 1999.
99.
99. Okay.
They won in 2001.
That's what it was. Because
I was a
that's when-
partial season ticket holder that inaugural season.
Right, because that's when Jake was born. So, but the really neat thing that most people probably don't realize, I mean, some do, but not so much anymore because Brian doesn't hammer on the head. Brian actually renovated Banquet Ballpark swimming pool.
Oh,
I
that's
actually
awesome.
ripped out the old one and put a new
Right.
one in.
That is
so,
awesome.
So tell those that are watching us live on YouTube right now, and because we're going to use this later, tell us how that all happened. Because I've heard the story before, and it's a really cool story.
So when you're watching the game and you're
Yeah.
looking at that pool, we're talking to the guy that did it. That is
Yes.
awesome.
Yes. Now, there's been some work done since then, but it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Literally, January 2004, I'm sitting at the Monster Truck Jam, and I was trying to figure out how do I really get my company out there. It was a fairly new business, and I wanted to get out there. And I looked down at the pool, and I'm like, I think I'm going to renovate this pool. And it was only 5 years old at the time, so I decided to go ahead and put on my best pitch, and I went down to the Diamondback Stadium, and I tried to get a meeting with someone, and I didn't get a meeting. So for 3 months, I would show up every day, and I would sit in the lobby for 3 to 4 hours, trying to get a meeting with someone. And it was 3 months later, and we go through a number of things that happened. I think the receptionist there, I can't remember her name, but I used to bring her coffee. I would bring her flowers. I brought her Valentine's Day gifts. Nothing worked, right?
Right,
And then
right.
one day I'm sitting there, and these guys come in really nice in their suits, and they're like, we're here for our marketing meeting. Next thing I know, there's 5 guys down there, and I'm like, hey, can I get a marketing meeting? And she's like, I thought you'd never ask. And so that was
Oh my God.
my ticket up. And so I show up for my meeting. We get in the elevator. I stop and do a whole elevator pitch. The guy is just kind of like, whoa, just kind of like it's. I don't know where this is going to go, but he took me upstairs, and the rest is history. But I have to tell you the main part of that story. So I'm a big Jerry Colangelo fan. I think without
Me
Jerry,
too.
Arizona would have no sports.
Amen.
And so I get a call one day from Tim Emery, who is my guy, and he tells me, he's like, "Hey, we're having a meeting." Well, I used to wear black T-shirts, basically cargo shorts and flip flops because I was out in job sites all the time. He's like, "I need you to come down. We're having a meeting." And I'm like, "Okay." I don't think anything of it. I show up at the meeting an hour later. I walk in wearing black T-shirt, cargo shorts, and my flip flops.
I love it.
And I open up the door, and he's like, "You're a little underdressed," and it's Jerry Colangelo and all the owners of the Diamondbacks sitting at the table. And I can tell you,
no.
immediately just started sweating like I was going to pass out right there on the floor.
Now, just so people understand, though, your black polo shirts had your We Fix Ugly Pools logo.
It wasn't even a polo shirt, Chris.
Oh,
It was a
really?
T-shirt that had We Fix. It was it was
Oh.
generation one of our T-shirts. It was the
Wow.
real simple logo.
Wow, that's crazy. That's even
So-
that makes the story even better, though.
Yeah,
That's
so
an epic story.
I get a chance to very informally pitch them. I get told pretty much it's not going to go anywhere, and then next thing I know, we're getting the opportunity to do something on a grand scale. And there's only a couple pools that have that notoriety or that where people actually recognize it, and to be able to be a part of that history was pretty awesome.
How
it wasn't-
long was it between the time that you didn't think it was going to
Oh, good
happen
question.
and they changed their mind?
Months, like not even very many months. It happened very quickly. So my whole thing is the Diamondbacks had a great season 2001, their inaugural season 99. 2001 they won the World Series.
Yep.
By 2004 they were struggling for
Yep.
attendance. They were just not having a great season. So we were giving them some opportunity, and I came in with this idea that, hey, let's bring a new life to it. The old pool was put in by Paddock Pools, and it was a typical commercial pool, blue tile, plaster finish. And I'm like, let's make it more renditions of outdoor living. So I put in a barbecue. I did stone decking. I did a lot of stacked stone. I
That's
actually,
awesome, man. I love it.
the pool is actually not built as a pool. It's actually two spas
Oh,
because I had to circumvent some of the codes. And with a pool, you have to have 100% decking. With a spa, you only have to have 30% decking. So I actually
Oh.
wanted to elevate the pool, so when you sit on the pool, you'd be seeing out over the fence instead of being on the bottom at the level of the ground and then
Right.
staring at the fence.
that's cool.
So
Yeah.
you use the code to your advantage.
Well, I learned a lot of lessons during that. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, but yeah, and he also, by the way, has the world record for building an in-ground swimming pool as well.
Yes.
That's awesome
So,
too, and I want to hear about that, but I can't tell you enough. That I did not know, obviously, that you did that, and I've seen it 100 times watching Diamondbacks games. It is very impressive. So
Thank you.
kudos.
Yeah,
That's
that
awesome.
was-
Yeah,
a couple years later, I had this. We managed to figure out how to build that pool, and we were told by the county that we built the pool. The paddock took like 9 months to build the Diamondbacks pool, the first one. I built it in 16 days, my time. So I was worked on an amplified timeline. So a couple years later, I was sitting there thinking. I know Shasta had the world record for building a pool in 7 hours and 50 something minutes or something like that.
yeah.
Or 7 hours and 14 minutes, and it had been there since 1970. So we had put together an idea, and in 2 weeks figured out how to make it happen. On 7th Street in Thomas, we put together a pool in 5 hours, 56 minutes, and 7 seconds. That included not just the pool, but the landscaping, the play area, the fence, the solar covers, the solar heating, the lighting, the water features. I mean, it was a pretty awesome experience. To this
How
day,
many
it's still
guys
one
did
of my
that take?
favorite feats. What's that?
How many guys did that take?
How many guys?
I had 189 on site. That included multiple inspectors that I had to pay. City of Phoenix. We had police officers on site for traffic and time control. The fire department actually filled the pool, and then we had all of our crews that were just cycling in and out. I mean, it was
That's
it was
crazy,
a pretty
man.
awesome feat. Yeah.
Congratulations.
I was blessed enough to be standing there watching it.
Yes.
Oh, you saw the thing live?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was there. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
At the time, because the real estate market had changed, we turned and we kind of went from a downward slope.
Okay.
So then, because Brian knew firsthand about my marketing and how I stayed in contact with clients and things like that, because once I sold him his house, he started getting all my stuff.
Sure.
So he and I are born of the same cloth as far as marketing in your face, like nonstop, just, top of mind. So we had that mutual respect. So when the market turned, I'm like, well, shit, real estate's blah, blah, blah. So I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, Now, how about I come work for you and I show your sales guys how to get repeat and referral business? So it was kind of just something that we both agreed would work, and it was cool. So when he was doing the world record pool, at the time I was working in his what HR department, I guess you'd call it.
Yep. Well,
helping
you do a
edu-
lot of the customer retention training.
Yes, yes. So I was helping with that, helping to show, and his contact management system was insane, and just, I mean, it was off the charts because that's Brian. Brian does everything off the charts. There's nothing little with Brian. It's like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. But it was a great follow-up
I
system.
appreciate that.
Right, but it was a great follow-up system that he has, and it enabled me to help his sales guys understand how to get that referral and repeat business by just, touches. And I don't think texting was big back then.
Well,
like
it
is
didn't
now.
exist.
No. So
Email,
it was,
email
yeah.
was just getting to be big, but we were still
Yeah.
doing a lot of postcards. We were doing a
Uh-huh.
lot of thank you cards, handwritten thank you cards.
Yep.
That was our big thing back then.
Yeah, I remember one Christmas he sent little gift baskets to all the clients. All the employees met at his house in Mesa, and we each had our set of stuff, and we had to go to the different past clients and drop off their little
Yeah,
Christmas.
750 gift baskets.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Brian doesn't mess around, man.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, but that's why he's been in business. I mean, what, 20 years, 20 plus years
20,
now?
almost 25 years now.
Yeah. He was actually part of my radio show on iHeart. He was a sponsor, so every show we had a segment that was brought to you by We Fix Ugly Pools, which is where I came up with that thing. We were just sitting there one day in the studio, I'm like, from installation, innovation, and complete backyard creation, We Fix Ugly Pools. I said, and he's like, dude.
But you hit the nail on the head when you said top of mind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you keep in touch with your clients like that, I always call them my go-to people, right?
Yeah,
I have a go-to mechanic. I have a go-to person that'll work on plumbing or, my roof or
Right.
It's not just anybody. It has to be that guy because that guy pays attention to detail, right? I noticed things like that because I became a good guitar player. When you master one craft, you see that same attention to detail in every other craft, right?
Yep.
And you guys both possess that in that you keep in touch with the people that did business with you first, which is unheard of in business these days.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Normally it's customer acquisition, right? Who's the next person coming?
Yeah, because there's things that I've seen over the years in real estate and I'm sure it falls in line with what Brian does, is that it's like 90% of people who buy a house don't use that realtor when they go to sell it because they never hear from them again.
True.
And I've had people that I'm constantly in contact with, and they'll still walk into a new build. And I'm like, oh, you did not just do that. And that's the catch with new builds. There's that little thing in the very bottom of the door. If your realtor's not with you, you're screwed. And then they'll call me, hey, dude, I went to a new build. I want to buy it. I'm like, oh, you're killing me, Smalls. That's why I make videos. Do not go into a new build without me.
That's why you never have any problem with me, though, Chris. Come on now.
Right. And yeah. See,
I'll
Brian
run
just-
Chris Ragged across town, believe
He will.
that.
Yeah, Brian's an hour away from me, and I'm still when he was looking for houses, man. It's like, let's go. He referred me somebody that I've been working with for about 3 weeks now. It's legit. It's an hour and 10 minutes one way just to show this person houses and stuff, and what he wants is unique. So we're still kind of opening doors and exploring things, but I've never been afraid to drive. Most realtors.
But let's be honest.
uh,
Two and a half years ago, when we purchased the house I'm in now, that one was tough market. There
It
wasn't
was.
a lot of availability, and what I was looking for was really difficult. And well, I think what we did one day, we did 20 house views in one day. He just lined them up. If we drove by, they had curb appeal. We went in. If they didn't, we were on. And we put offers in on 5 or 6, did inspections on 4, and canceled a bunch of them.
Yep. But you have to adapt when the market changes. You evolve or you die, right? So it's kind of like you, Ugly Pool, man. He evolves. He's evolved over the years, because now he does complete backyard installation and creation. So anything from the back door to the back fence, wall to wall, Brian can turn it from dirt into paradise, which is
Well,
cool.
we always did that. We just never focused on our
Right.
marketing. Now it's become a pretty big part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. It's We Fix Ugly Pools, or We Fix Ugly Pools, and Ugly Pool Guy. So I've got a couple of them.
All right. Yeah, I want to see some of these.
Yeah.
I've only
Yeah.
ever seen the Diamondbacks pool that you've done, so I'll definitely subscribe and check
The,
out
and
the
the
World
cool
Record
videos.
Pool is pretty fun. It takes you about 6 minutes to watch. What
Yeah, I
we
want to
did in
watch
6
that on my
hours.
big screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the cool thing about the world record pool, it wasn't just digging a hole, dropping a pool in the ground. They had the water features that shot across the pool. Like it was legit. Is when you're done with it, it's like, holy smokes, this is a really nice swimming pool. Like
So
it
you
wasn't.
didn't just go in, slap it together. You built a badass pool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
the entire.
Like I said, it
backyard
wasn't just the
landscaping.
pool though. Yeah, we did everything. We landscaped it. We built a play area for the kids because every time I turned around, the media was like, well, "What else you gonna do? What else you gonna do? What else you gonna do?" And I'm like, "What more do you want me to do but build a pool in under 6 hours?"
Yeah, yeah. Man,
Is that all you were required to do? Is just build the pool to beat the record?
Yeah.
Wow.
Shasta's pool is a very basic pool. It was over off. Actually, went to the pool. It was over off of Peoria and 92nd Avenue. I met the lady. She was, very upset about the fact that we were going after this record because she's had it. But their pool is a very basic plaster pool with cap tile, and I, wanted to do something much better. But we wanted to make it more of the complete experience. In fact, the husband went to work that morning thinking we'd be done in the afternoon, and the boss. That was before streaming was a big thing, so we streamed.
Oh, that's right. I remember
Yeah.
that.
And we had 1 million. We could cap at 1 million viewers, and our system kept crashing because there was always 1 million viewers, but people were waiting in the queue. 60% were
impressive,
from
man.
other countries.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot about the stream.
Yeah, because we didn't have all this cool technology where you could pick up your phone and stream. We had to set up this whole intricate system and have cameras everywhere, and
Right.
it was pretty cool.
Right, and then just so people realize, I'm in Queen Creek, Arizona. Brian's in Glendale, Arizona. Mike's in Pontiac, Illinois.
Yep.
And here we are.
But it's so much simpler now because everybody's video calling now.
Oh yeah.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, this system works pretty much flawlessly as long as you have a cable modem or faster.
Yep.
So what else you want to talk about there, ugly pool guy?
Man, what do you want to talk about?
Well, okay.
I'm a ball of excitement all the time. So
I know. So in the background, I can't help but notice the superhero picture because somebody gave that to you.
yeah, that was for
Talk-
you.
talk-
So
talk-
this
Can't
is the
imagine who that would
representation.
be.
Yeah, talk a little bit about your dad, man. Your dad was just a cool human for sure. I didn't know
So
how
I-
much of a cool human he was, until unfortunately, he passed away. But that's when I oh my gosh, this guy.
So I've always looked at my dad as larger than life. He's always been my superhero, and he used to have these little quips all the time, saying things like, inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard, and it became my motto in life. And I didn't realize it. We used it when we were on the track and field. So back in the 90s, high school as a national champion, state champion, went on to national championships, was placed top in the world.
Wow.
Of
50 in the
because
world.
people don't know of
Yeah,
what.
shot put and discus.
Okay.
So I was
cool.
a shot putter, and but anytime that I would get frustrated, he would say, "Just remember, inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard." But I didn't realize that the phrase actually meant more in life than it did in on the field. So
I love
I
that.
adopted it, and I started to learn to celebrate the small victories, and that was how I started to gear all my success. So when I talk to people, I mentor people, and they get frustrated because they see. I said, "Look, I've had 20 years of fumbling to get where I'm at. Inch by inch is how you get there." So in 2023, he passed away, and that's when you grabbed this and sent this to me. But I had created the character for the ugly pool guy, and I always put my dad in the picture, and he's always been my Superman. So he's always looking over my shoulder, but reminding me that inch by inch you can make anything happen. So it's he was the eternal mentor. He taught for 27 years, and I run into his students all the time that had him in the 70s that talk about the profound impact that he had on their lives. And I'm blessed to have been able to call him my dad. As hard as he was a ball buster. He was not afraid. Even as much as he was always the most supportive guy.
We have the
second
same
place
dad,
was always-
buddy.
Hey, second place was first loser. So just remember this. There was always that. If you're going to go after it, you go after it and do the best that you can. But second place is first loser. So he didn't give out participation trophies. He expected if you're going to do it, you go to it. You're never allowed to quit in the middle of a season. If you don't like something, you finish out the season. You do it.
Yep.
But if you're going to do it, and if I wanted him to help me, I was going to perform at the level that he wanted, that I wanted to be at, not him, because he never put those expectations on me.
But a lot of that made you who
awesome.
you are today, for sure.
Oh,
And
most
I
definitely.
feel the same way, man. There's times when when you're young, you think, man, does he really love me? Why's he got to be like this? And then when you're our age, you think back on those moments, or you see people that didn't have that, and they're really fucked in life, right? They didn't have anybody to call them on their bullshit, right? Because women can serve both roles to an extent, but there has to be that what you called an intimidation factor, right? I had that as well. My dad's 6'4", 235. When he, you know, as a young man, he was built like a freight train. So I could only go so far before I had to be I could never be smarter than him, and I could never be bigger than him at that time. You know, like I'm fucked. Okay.
I got to tell you, Mike.
Let me just tell you the truth.
I graduated high school 6'4" and 295. My dad was 50 years old, 6'2" and a half and 250, and I made the mistake of stepping up to him. Right after my mom passed away my senior year, and I made the mistake of stepping up to him one day.
Oh no!
And at 50, my dad picked up a 290-pound man and put me through a wall this far off the ground.
Oh my God!
And he told me, he goes, always remember something. You can always be bigger than me, but you're never going to be meaner than me.
I love that.
Fair enough. So I had an opportunity late in life. I just had a son when I turned 49.
Congratulations.
Low B.
And I have to give my dad, again, all thanks to this credit, because in 2022 I was running for a state House representative, and we were watching the video at the primary, and I was like, man, that video really puts on some weight. My dad looked at me and goes, son, that's not the video. And I'd gotten heavier than I had ever gotten, because I just kind of let myself go. I was wearing almost a 5X shirt, 44 pants. I'm 370 pounds. I'm just unhealthy. But I had convinced myself that I was still this large man. Mm-hmm. So over the next 15 months, I dropped 130 pounds. I turned my biomarkers around. I was biologically 56 years old at 47. I'm now biologically 42 at 49. And all of a sudden, my baby pops up, and so now I've got the revision to the Superman picture. Is we put Grandpa in heaven, and he's looking down on us, here's Superman, and I've got little B on my shoulder.
There
so when
you
I
go.
get that one
I
done,
love
it's
that,
pretty cool.
dude.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I love that.
The difficulty with that too, because when I had that idea, nobody would do it because Superman's a trademark logo, and I was like, you got to be kidding me! Like I went to so many different outlets to do it, and nobody would do it. I forget who ended up doing it for me. And from this point, it looks really cool.
Probably better not say.
But well, I know. But Brian knows when you're up close, it's kind of pixelated just because of the image itself. But from this point of view,
It looks badass from where I'm sitting.
Yeah. And that was Kevin. What do you get somebody that because really the stories I've heard from his dad, the one that resonates with me, because I didn't know your dad, but I met him one time, and then when I ran into him at the Rattlers game, it's like we'd known each other our entire life. Yep. Like that's just how he was. He always looked at me and smiled, was happy to see me. I mean, he was that kind of guy. But the story that stuck with me that you told was the fact that the one time he got stuck on the side of the road and nobody would help him. So from that point forward, he would always have a toolkit or a tool, whatever, in his vehicle. And anybody he saw on the side of the road, he would stop. Like regardless of the time of day, regardless of where he was going, regardless of the schedule.
We would be on cross-country trips to go to visit family in Oklahoma. It would be 0 degrees outside, icy roads, and he'd see a family. My dad had this little Craftsman toolbox that had everything in there. My dad was a badass mechanic. He taught industrial arts and mechanics in school. I watched him drop the engine of a VW Bug, change out, rebuild a carburetor in a Fry's parking lot, Smitty's back then, but a Smitty's parking lot.
Smitty's right on.
By himself, put the engine back in, bolt it up, and get the people on their way. Yeah. So we're driving to Oklahoma. It's middle of the night, and there's this family stuck on the side of the road. My dad pulls out his toolbox. We're sleeping in the motorhome. I wake up. I go out there. He's like, here, hold the flashlight for me. And my dad, in freezing conditions, wearing a T-shirt and shorts and socks and his slippers, works on this guy's car and gets his family back on the road. And he told me,
awesome.
When he goes, I'll never leave anybody stranded. So that's my philosophy today. Even though everybody has cell phones and AAA, we still stop to change tires all the time.
Yeah, that was the most endearing story I heard when we were at his what do you call that? Celebration of Life.
Celebration of Life.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, that wasn't just an impressive thing, though. I mean, you saw people that showed up for him from elementary school, kids that had him in as a teacher in the 70s, the 80s, and 90s. I mean, there was 350, 400 people that showed up for that.
Yeah, it was packed. It was packed. But that was the one story that stuck out to me, just because it's, who does that anymore on a grand scale?
Nobody.
Unless you're a small town Midwest type thing, you don't hear about that. So
Yeah, and even that's rare nowadays for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Well, that because of all the serial killers and stuff, So, so there you go. So little B just turned 1,
He just turned 1. I got to spend his birthday party on Saturday in the hospital.
right? And why is that, Brian Morris?
So in February this year, I decided that I was going to start throwing shot put and discus again. I got healthy, so I decided I'm driving down the street. I'm going to start throwing shot. I haven't done it in 28 years. Why not?
Right. Exactly.
I had no plans of competing this year, and third day into it, at the second week of February, the coach at GCC is like, "Hey, why don't you throw in our meet on Saturday?" Well, in the master side, as you get older, they break down age divisions like 50 to 54, 55 to 59. So there's a 5-year age division.
Right.
And after my meet, I threw against all these college kids on that Saturday. I placed second out of 36. That following Monday, I found out I was number 3 in the world for masters after not throwing for that long. So,
Wow.
I spent the next 15 weeks. I didn't prep myself for it. So I was kind of like just right back to throwing. And I thought, hey, I'm going to train the way I used to train when I was in my 20s, which was 5 days a week, compete on the weekends, don't take any days off. Well,
Right.
our bodies break down at 50 a little differently.
A little bit.
So
A little bit.
I tore a calf, I tore a hamstring, I pulled a growing, I ended up with a small inigual hernia that I just kind of ignored. And then I just kept going and going and going. I was doing things. I think it was right around the 4th of May. I had set my sights on breaking this meet record up in Eugene, Oregon, that had stood for 30 years at a place called Tracktown, USA. It's the most amazing track stadium.
Is that in the same kind of area where Nike was developed?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
Yep. So the Eugene Stadium it's Tracktown. When you pull in, it's track everything. I mean, that's
Steve
what it is.
Fontaine. Yeah.
Yep. So that's
You're
what
fine.
it is.
You're
It's-
fine,
it's-
man.
You're fine. Whoever wants to see you, you're
Yeah.
fine.
So
We're
it's
not
been-
that critical.
We're not that like rigid, dude.
Yeah. So I get there. I set sights on breaking that record. I'm on my last throw, and I broke a record that was 30 years old. At that point, I'm within striking distance of an Arizona record, which is 20 years old, and the national record, which is 20 years old.
Right.
I come back. I start training right away on Monday. That Thursday, I'm just doing basic drills, and I blow the meniscus out of my knee.
Ouch.
So I tore both horns on the meniscus of my knee.
Does that hurt
and,
as bad as everybody says it does?
Worse. I went from feeling like I was on top of the world to couldn't even walk.
You hear
Oh.
grown men who are powerful athletes scream when that happens. So it's got to hurt like you can't even imagine.
I got carried to my truck. Let's put it that way.
Oh.
Okay.
So
And you're
thank God the
unstoppable. You
throwers
told
were
me
pretty
you're a
good.
machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started doing the rehab right away. A lot of alternative therapies. I do a lot of regenerative factors, stem cells, PRP, red light, hyperbaric oxygen, cryotherapy. I mean, I'm doing it all. Stem waves, shock wave, you name it.
What
I'm
kind of
doing it.
stem cells? Just out of curiosity.
Well, in America, you can't get true stem cells, so we get what's called regenerative factors. And regenerative factors are what stem cells turn into. A lot of people don't understand how it works. So, and I can't say this word correctly, but they're called mesenchymal stem cells, are what we get if you go out of country. You can actually get where they're embryonic, and you actually get the young stem cells that can become pretty much anything. But what the stem cells do is they turn into what's called regenerative factors. And regenerative factors are the messaging systems that actually help to rebuild tissue, cells, everything like that.
That's so
in America,
impressive.
you can't get true stem cells because of all of the stipulations about having embryonic stem cells and whatnot. So that's why a lot of people go down to Mexico, Costa Rica, or Panama. You hear Joe Rogan talking about Panama all the time for stem cells. And
Mike is a
so-
huge Joe Rogan fan.
Oh
yeah.
I listen to a lot.
Yep, me too. So I found a doctor that actually does the regenerative factors, and when you do stem cells, you're doing hundreds of millions. When you're doing regenerative factors, you're doing billions. So I got hurt. I called him up on the phone. It's 5:00 in the afternoon, and I'm like, "Hey, I got hurt." He's on his way home. He's like, "Come to my office." I get to his office 7:30. He stays till 9:00, treating me with stem cells in my knee and intravenously. I come back 10 days later, do another round.
Amazing.
So Saturday had been 6 weeks and 2 days, 5 weeks and 2 days that I'd been off. They told me that I wouldn't be able to throw the rest of the season. I'm trying to get to nationals.
Right.
I'm out at the track meet at Mesa Community College, and I hadn't thrown a full throw in 6 weeks, so I hadn't even practiced but twice in 6 weeks, and since I got hurt,
Yeah.
and I throw my fifth throw, and I fouled the throw, but it was over the American record, and it was over the Arizona record. So I'm feeling really good on my last throw, and I go to load up, and next thing I know, I felt a pop, and I knew something was wrong. Got home and found out that not only the inguinal hernia that I had that I knew, the other one had split open too. So little B's birthday started at I got home at 11:30. By 2 o'clock, I had swelling in places that I wish I didn't. I felt like I was carrying a basketball between my legs, and I knew something was wrong. And so I head to the ER at 2 o'clock. 70 people showed up for his birthday party at 5, and I was in surgery and the next morning at 7:30.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, at least it was his first birthday, so he won't remember. It sucks for you that you weren't there for sure. And holy
Yeah.
crap,
It was a great party. I mean, I saw what I could see on Facebook.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And technology, we were able to, you watch some of it on FaceTime, right?
Yeah, I watched the gift opening. I watched. I got a lot of pictures. I cried a lot, because I wanted to be here with my son. And whenever he would grab the phone, little B is so in tune with me. He grabs the phone and he runs around. And he shows everybody, Dad, 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 Dad. And he's just
I love that.
It's just so funny. But he's going in circles and he's looking down. He's like, Dad, and he's showing everybody me. And
He's right here.
Yeah.
yeah. So that was pretty cool. But then I got home. I got home late on Sunday night, and he immediately runs up to me, and I can't pick him up because I can't carry the weight. So it's he was just crying, and that just broke my heart. I mean, as a man, I think I've waited a long time to have this kid. So
Yeah. And if anybody knows Brian just this defines Brian having a son.
That's
Like
awesome.
if anybody in the world deserved to have a son that wanted a son more than anything else in the world, that's Brian Morris.
I'm just sitting here thinking that this is the luckiest kid in the world because everything I'm feeling from you is exactly what Chris just described. You
Yeah.
know,
And
this
little
kid
B
was
yeah.
blessed for sure.
And he's such a cute little kid. Like he when you see him, picture of him, like he doesn't look like he's one. He looks like this really old soul for being such a little. I mean, he's one, but it's just
like a little person already.
yeah, it's a trip.
what's even crazier is his muscle development. Like, he's got a chest, he's got a back, he's got lats, and I'm like, he's got Grandpa's thighs. I mean, I wish I had my
right
dad's thighs. My dad had these massive thighs,
Uh-huh.
and he's got these massive thighs, and I'm like, yep, you're definitely your grandpa's kid.
That's why he picked you up and threw you through that wall. The power's in your legs, man.
The
lot of
power was in that man in every aspect of his body. I mean, funny story. There was an athlete that came down. His name was Mike Hungerford. Right before he passed away, and Mike was one of my dad's throwers. Big football kid. He was a massive lineman in Moon Valley. My dad used to arm wrestle these kids, and they used to always want to try to take on my dad. My dad never lost arm wrestling.
That's fun.
So it's about a couple days before my dad passed away. Mike comes over to the house, and my dad's down to 175 pounds, but he's still got these massive man hands that's been cranking wrenches and working on farms and doing all this stuff his whole life. And
Yep.
I'll never forget Mike looking at him and goes, Coach, he goes, I think I can finally take you. And my dad with this big shit-eating grin looks at him and goes, and Mike just lost it, because my dad, he's the eternal tough guy. There was no, if you want to talk about a man being a man, that was him.
Like,
There was
not even on your best day is that going to happen.
No, and that's what he said. It was basically, no.
I feel the same way about my dad for sure. It's like those guys were just a different, no matter how much we think we're men sitting here, they were a different breed of man, right? For good or bad, indifferent. They lived in a different time, but that was a different man as far as you're saying. The toughness, the meanness, there's no quit. I go to work every day. Unless I'm dying, I'll be at work, right? That was their mindset.
And that's the mindset that I carry too. I mean, I got home at 4:30 on Sunday. I was back at work at 7 a.m. yesterday. So.
And on the way from the hospital, where did you stop, Brian?
Oh, so I'm a big. I left the hospital and right to hyperbaric oxygen. So I've been studying alternative therapies for the last 2.5 years. I got on the trail of alternative therapies. I don't believe in big pharma. I haven't taken a single painkiller in years.
I
I
try to
don't
stay
take
away from
aspirin.
that as well, for sure.
Yep.
Agreed.
So I've been on this since my dad got cancer, and actually went right to the hyperbaric oxygen therapy and started treatment with that. Got into the red light, got into that. I believe that if we were actually empowering people to heal, that we would be putting people in a hyperbaric prior to surgery and immediately after surgery, because the number one thing that allows our body to heal is oxygen. So if you preload the body and allow it to have a more cellular movement and have that better blood flow, everything's going to work better. You can use a lower doses of anesthesia. You can use lower doses of pain meds to get the same result, and you're going to have better tissue healing. And actually, in 48 hours, the scarring around my incision points has almost completely, there's almost completely no bruising at all, which is insane.
Yeah,
So,
people need to hear this for sure,
Yep.
because very few people listen to the amount of different kind of alternative medicine therapy doctors, people who are legitimate, that you and I do, because we hear a lot of them on Rogan, and the people that Jordan Peterson and the people that have followed Rogan for years that he's had on there that I listen to for different things for the same reason. There has to be a better way. I was an avid cannabis user for years. I used it recreationally in the band, to write better songs. I used it later on after I got in a car accident for pain management. And then that ability was taken away from me through a job, and I got addicted to Xanax
oh, wow.
for anxiety. Actually, Chris figured it out on this podcast, Brian. The first thing that I was ever addicted to was painkillers after I got in that car accident that were prescribed by a doctor legitimately. They sent me home and gave me 2 muscle relaxers and a painkiller and said, take this 3 times a day in perpetuity. I didn't know any better. The doctor gave it to me. This was 1998. So, we didn't have the whole opiate knowledge that we have today. And if they did, they didn't tell us, right?
Yep.
So,
Well, I'll tell you.
kudos
so
to you for saying all
journey-
that.
My journey has taken me down the rabbit hole of stem cells, regenerative factors, red light, hyperbaric, cryotherapy. I have a cold
I'm
plunge and
fascinated with
infrared
stem
sauna in my
cells.
garage. But I've become a guru when it comes to peptide therapy, because I believe that holistically, our bodies are already, and I'm going to throw this thing out there like in the 2-minute part
Explain
of this.
peptide
Yeah,
therapy,
yeah,
because
yeah.
very
Oh,
few
I'm
people
going
are
to
going to
right
know.
now.
Okay.
Okay.
So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say this. We treat everything better than we treat ourselves. And the reason why I say this is because when you drive down the road and your check engine light comes on, you don't just pull over and pull the fuse on your check engine light. You take your car in, you schedule for maintenance. But when you have a headache, you pull the fuse on the check engine light. A headache is a check engine light.
Correct.
A headache is your body's way of signaling your brain, because the brain knows no pain. You can have open brain surgery and there's not a single pain receptor in your brain. All the pain receptors are from somewhere else. So when you have something that goes off in your brain, it's coming from somewhere else. That's a signal. The brain is the computer that you plug in. Like when you go get your car, your brain plugs in and it says, hey, you have this error code. And then it has to signal your body on how to regenerate. And the reason why we know that our bodies are perfect machines is because when you are in a situation where when you're freezing, what is the first thing that freezes? Your extremities, right?
Correct.
Because your body has to protect the head, the heart, the lungs, and the torso. You can lose both arms, both legs, and still function and still live.
Correct.
And your body knows this. So it knows how to shut down the systems that it doesn't need in perpetuity until it gets to a point where it has to start taking from other things. So let's use that as aging. As we age, our body takes from things like our skin. If we want to know why women age differently than men, as we get to 50, 60, 70 years old, we don't look as aged as a woman who's at 50, 60, 70, because a woman has more collagen that's taken from their skin. Once it takes from their skin and the wrinkles start to happen, where does it go next? It goes to bones. Why do women have more conditions of osteoporosis than any other thing than men? Because that's the next thing that's gone after. Collagen is the building block, not protein, not calcium. Collagen, skin, bones, organs, all collagen based. So let's just use that as a building block.
Okay.
Peptides signal our body. They're short chain amino acids or short chain proteins in our body that actually allow our body to do certain things on a cellular level. There's hundreds upon thousands of different proteins in our bodies, and there's hundreds upon thousands of different peptides in our body. At age 30, our body starts to lose the ability to regenerate these things. So our production starts to go down. And the way I can use this, I like analogies because it makes sense. If you have a janitor that goes to a classroom and he's new on the job and he's doing a perfect job, he goes into the classroom's always clean. He's wiping on the chalkboard, he's cleaning the trash cans, he's mopping the floors. 10 years later, that same janitor, he's got a lot of other rooms, the classes are messy, he's getting in, he's hurrying through, but he's not cleaning them exactly, right? So now you start to leave these cells behind that are called zombie cells, or they're cells that are just not getting taken care of. They're not getting cleared out of our body because our janitors aren't doing the work that they're supposed to do. And pretty soon it becomes too overwhelming where he's lucky to come in and empty the trash can anymore. Well, all those zombie cells come together and we start to have clusters of zombie cells that then become what? Cancers and things like that cause degeneration in our body.
Correct.
So I'm giving you the simple understanding of how this works. Peptides allow your body to restart and give yourself some new janitors, or to invigorate the janitor. Maybe you're giving them a Red Bull, and it allows you to have that whole idea that your body can heal. So I'm going to use this. In October, I tore my calf muscle. I had a CT scan of my calf. They told me it was 6 to 12 weeks for the swelling to go down, and then I'd be good to throw again, or not throw at the time, but be good to walk. 3.5 weeks later, I went back. I had him circle exactly where the tear was in my calf. 3.5 weeks later, I went back, and the guy thought he CT'd that he cat the wrong leg because it had completely healed. I had gone home and started treating it with peptides immediately. I tore my hamstring fourth week of training. Started treating with peptides, never took a day off. I pulled my growings, never took a day off. I've competed at better levels. I've got a whole system for 15 weeks of better throws at meets, getting better and better and better while I'm injured, dealing with knees and everything else. So I have been invigorated over the last 2.5 years by peptides.
Can I interject for 1 second?
Yes.
I love everything you're saying. I'm sitting over here. I'm like floating on my chair because you're speaking my language, right? I listen to this, all the same things. I haven't applied it to my life to the level that you're talking about right now. So this is amazing. What I'm hearing, and anybody that's listening should be hearing, is there's no money in treating people the way you're treating yourself, right?
No.
There's money in giving them prescription drugs and following the status quo, the way we've been doing it for however long Big Pharma's been controlling a lot of this country, in that they just dole out prescriptions like they're candy.
Well, Big Pharma wants to treat us to death.
Right.
And I want to live a better quality of life.
Literally want to treat you to death. Literally.
That's
And
it.
there was a time when medicine in this country, I want to believe, was way closer to wanting to do the right thing, right?
Nope. I think that the original intention, but very quickly people saw the opportunity of money.
Agreed.
I think that.
Agreed.
I think that when you have there, absolute power is absolute corruption, and when you have power to heal people, you have absolute power. If you have
Right.
power to treat people, then you have the ability to have a return residual income, and that model started 400 years ago.
Yeah, what do they
We
say?
get people to
Absolute
keep
power
coming back,
corrupts
right?
absolutely.
So I'm a big believer that we have allowed ourselves to be funneled. If you look at third world countries, we're all old enough to remember this. Do you guys remember the AIDS epidemic in the 80s and the early 90s?
Absolutely.
$1,000,000,000%.
Okay,
Yep.
what
Everybody
happened?
was
How
going to
come
die of
Africa,
AIDS.
4 out of 5 people had AIDS. How come Africa's not wiped off the map?
Right.
I'll tell you why.
Right.
Because they're being treated with peptides.
Oh.
Type 1, 2, and 3 diabetes being treated, not just treated, but let's use the C word, cured with peptides. So they don't have access to the pharmaceuticals that we have because there's no money in a third world country to have pharmaceuticals. So they're treating them with alternatives being the peptides for AIDS, hepatitis, A, B, and C, diabetes, 1, 2, 3, cancers, all of these things. There's actually a peptide out there, PNC 127, that is called the cancer killer.
Really?
How come nobody talks about it?
I've heard
Because
these
there's
stories
no
too.
money in it, man.
No money in it.
There's no money.
There's
That's why I wanted-
$80,000 in a treatment of radiation or chemotherapy. A round of chemotherapy. My dad's, when I saw his bill, was $80,000 for his round.
So here's, and this is me being who I am as far as have a conversationalist and whatnot. So with your dad, was he not a believer in peptides, or was it something that came after
I was
the fact?
new. I was new.
Okay.
I was just getting into the understanding of it, and
Okay,
it's a lot
okay.
to learn.
Yeah.
I spent $50,000 to take him down to
remember that.
Mexico.
I remember
I
that.
took him down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
The tumor shrank, but
Yeah.
when he came back, the oncologist told my dad that if he continued the alternative treatments, that my dad was going to die and that he wouldn't treat him anymore.
So he stopped.
So he stopped.
Yeah,
That's
because he believed
fucking
he
terrible.
believed the medical professional as
Even
opposed
though
to the holistic.
we had a proof model that
Right.
those cancers were, the cells were shrinking, that the tumors had shrunk.
Right.
And he gave himself back to the conventional because he was scared. He didn't want to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I can see
how
that.
do you balance
Right.
the idea? Here's the one thing we know:
Right.
people have died with
Sure.
treatments of chemotherapy and radiation, right?
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely.
We know that.
Yeah.
So we know that healthy people have died because there's been mixed diagnoses and people that have been prescribed
Sure.
that people that have taken those treatments have died even though they had no cancers.
Right.
So did the cancer kill them or did the treatment kill them?
The treatment, because if you think about it, I've heard. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I've heard that all the people that died of COVID died in hospitals or under doctor's care. None of them died at home.
Correct. And most of them were put on ventilators.
Right. Which, what does that tell you? Like the big thing when I had COVID both times, the first time was they didn't want you laying on your back because you know, whatever, the lungs and things like that, which is impossible when you sleep. You don't know how you're sleeping, right? But and when I got it the first time, the big thing was I was over 50 and had asthma. So even if it went to the hospital stage, they were going to write me off anyway because my chances of survival were next to none because over 50 with asthma, not knowing what a physically fit specimen I was. But
And they got money for every person that died in the hospital,
Yep.
right?
Right. Yeah, crazy, man.
Well, so this is my next adventure. I've really, my life has always been about helping people, and the longer I'm on this journey, the more I believe in it. So
Yeah.
I actually own the website peptideguy.com.
Not
and,
surprising.
I'm
gonna
2 weeks away
check
from
that out,
2 weeks away from launching that. I haven't launched it yet.
Let me
But
know.
what it's going to be is it takes a different approach. It's not a scientific approach. It's an informational approach from someone who's been
Been there, done that.
who's been using them,
Mm-hmm.
who has been studying them, who's had the trouble of understanding how to titrate up, how to titrate down, when to come off the cycle, when not to come off the cycle.
So it's not it's not a continuous.
No. Well,
So
it isn't because you have receptor sites that
Right,
you can
okay.
burn out, and you don't ever
Okay.
want to burn out a receptor site. So
Okay, now that we've explained what it is and how it works, and I challenge everybody to rewind us, I'm going to listen to it again. You just told two incredible success stories of recovery from horrible injuries that were not related to big pharma, not
Right.
related to drugs,
Right.
that were not invasive to your life, and a complete 100% success story, right?
Right.
yes.
So
100%.
now explain how what you call a cycle worked.
yes.
What is
So-
a peptide? Is it a pill? Is it liquid? Is it what is
So
it?
the peptides do come in oral format. The problem is people are scared of injections, and even though the needles are very small, they're the size of diabetic needles.
Okay, so
people are-
let them understand. So is a peptide needle the same size as like a testosterone?
No,
Okay, smaller.
much smaller. It's
Okay.
the size of a diabetic needle, which is
I
like
see. I'm
30.
not diabetic, so I have no idea.
So a testosterone needle will go down to like 21 gauge, which
Okay.
is like about a pencil lead.
Okay.
Whereas a diabetic needle is the size of a hair.
Oh, okay. That explains it. Thank you.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So the problem with oral peptides is that when you ingest anything, the first thing it has to go through is your stomach, your gastrointestinal,
Sure.
your juices. So it eliminates a lot of that stuff. That's why when you take a lot of vitamins, you're passing a lot of the vitamins right through because you're
Right.
just not getting a chance to allow them to be cycled into your body.
Gotcha.
So a lot of the stuff that we take which you should still be taking your multivitamins and everything. I have a very good regimen, but that only a portion of
He
that's
does.
getting absorbed. So with peptides, if you take oral peptides, the efficacy of the peptides is lost in the stomach gastrointestinal. So you do an injection, and you can inject it into the love handle. I inject if I have a pain point, I inject right into it. And it depends on the peptide and depends on what you're trying to get. There's peptides for skin, hair, nails, scarring. There's peptides for tissues, cellular regeneration, weight loss. A lot of people don't realize that Wegovy, Ozempic, tirzepatide, all the weight loss is a peptide. And it's the first one that they've actually FDA approved because they found out they can make money on them.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So if they can make money on it, and then they can try to figure out how to force everyone out, they're gonna do that. Well, peptides are like vitamins. You can get them online. You can get them. You just have to understand them and make sure you're getting from a reputable source.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you for a second. So Ozempic, we've heard like a ton of fallout from Ozempic because it originally was used for diabetes, then it was used for weight loss. But there's a lot of side effects now that are coming to light, kind of like with vaping, right? Vaping is safer than cigarettes, which we all kind of call BS on to begin with, anyway. But now that's become more and more apparent that it's the harmful.
Well,
the
let me
harm
ask you.
that's coming.
Let me ask you a question, Chris.
Okay. Okay.
Is eating harmful for you?
Absolutely.
No, it's not. It's how you eat.
Well, okay, yeah.
Let's use this. You
Okay.
eat to live, right?
Sure.
So peptides are naturally occurring in your body.
Okay.
But if you are trying to lose weight and you do nothing else,
Right.
you're going to muscle waste.
Oh, yes, exactly.
So a lot of times people are like, I'm going to take this injection. It's going to be
Yeah.
a miracle.
Right.
They don't move. They don't
Right.
change their diet.
Right.
They don't take the necessary precautions to allow them to have the
Good point.
That is a great
put there.
point.
Yeah.
If I drive my car, I can drive my car. If I go over the mileage on my oil, I'm okay until I get to a certain point, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yep.
Well,
Right.
the fallout from these drugs is because people don't want to put in the effort it
Agreed.
takes to do what it needs
Yeah.
to be done. Peptides are generally safe. It's hard to OD on a peptide because it's a protein.
Okay.
It's not a medicine. There's no.
Right.
It's not a medicine. If it was a
Okay.
medicine, it would be a different kind of regulation.
Yeah, that's an important point that I
Yeah.
don't think we've distinguished. So I'm glad you just said that.
Yeah.
For sure. It's not a medicine.
People have this idea that if it was a medicine, there would be no way to buy it online, and they're
True.
all over online.
True. Yeah.
Because
I
they're
noticed
not
that.
for human consumption. They're not for human use, and that's the bottom line. I would never tell anybody to use them. They're
Right.
for research purposes only.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
But when you come down to the Ozempic, tirzepatide, and the Wegovy, Ozempic has muscle wasting. If you don't give yourself the necessary vitamins, the proteins, and do your movements, you're going to have
Right.
muscle wasting. It's going to have problems. Absolutely.
Okay.
And this
Cool.
is why it's important for me. As I'm posting on Facebook, I'm getting blown up on my DMs, and I
Sure.
spend half the day answering that stuff because people have so many questions about this because they heard this or they heard this,
Right.
they heard this. So that's why I'm creating this site. Is I just wanted to put a practical approach to it that can answer these questions and help people get through, because I believe that if I can reach one person. I was 370 pounds. I was
Oh, I
a
know.
44 shirt and a 44 pants and a 5X shirt.
Yep.
And with peptides and good eating habits and working out and moving,
Right.
I changed my lifestyle, and I'm now a 34, which I haven't been a
Right.
34
I
since I
know.
was in eighth
I know.
grade.
That
was
was pretty- I remember that- I remember that day.
140-pound
Yeah.
loss,
Yeah, I
and I've
remember.
maintained it through all of the things that I've gone through, including death, holidays, son's birth, and I didn't work out for almost a year after little
Right.
B was born.
Yeah. I know we talked about that, but again, so that makes more sense then. So it's not necessarily the drug itself; it's because people are lazy.
They expect results. They want results in a can. They want results in a pill. They want results in an injection. And the reality is that these are tools. A mechanic is only as good as his toolbox.
Sure.
But if you have a Snap-on toolbox and you only use one tool out of that toolbox, that doesn't make you a good mechanic.
Right.
If you give me that Snap-on toolbox, it'll collect dust most of the time until you come over or somebody like my dad comes over or my brother that actually knows how to use tools, because I spent my formative years learning to play a guitar. So I understand what you're talking about for sure. I like your analogies, and I like the alternative side of it. I definitely like to talk to you more about that side of it.
Absolutely.
Well, we could do a whole nother show on peptides alone.
Oh my God. This
And
is
just the
Once
alternative
you
medicine.
once you get the
alone.
peptide guy up and running, we'll have you back on, and we'll just talk about the different types of peptides and we
Yeah, I
can
thought
go
we were
over
going to
this-
talk about pools for an hour and a half, which was totally cool with me. And then we went down what we like to call a squirrel moment, and it's like, holy shit, Brian Morris is cool as fuck.
well,
Right. Well, yeah, that's
the
why
thing
well,
about it is,
I've been
I love-
bugging him for.
I love
Go
the
ahead,
pool
go ahead.
business, but I'll be honest with you. The thing I love even more is watching it. So there's two journeys that people are in life that are on. They're on a transformative journey, which is what I'm on, or they're on a preventative journey, right? As we get past our 30s, we have to make that decision. Are we on a
Yeah.
preventative journey or a transformative journey? Everybody's using the bullshit word biohacking.
Yeah.
I call it bio-optimization. Forget the biohacking.
Oh.
I'm not hacking shit. And here's
Right.
the reason why. Our bodies already know what they're doing.
It's
Yeah.
perfection from the
And-
start, right?
And that's it. So I have a doctor friend of mine. He became a medical doctor because his family had a history of Parkinson's, dementia, and Alzheimer's. He started becoming a doctor at 8 years old because he saw what it did to his family. So he spent his entire life learning the medical profession to be able to prevent that in himself. So he's been on a preventative journey since he was 8 years old.
Wow.
Oh man.
I've been on the ups and downs. I've been at the
Sure.
top of my sport. I've been at the lowest point health wise, where at 370, I was pre diabetic. I was getting out of bed, my feet would swell up. I'd have to crawl on my knees to the bathroom until the blood started moving. I was embarrassed, but I didn't let people know that, you know, and I just do my thing. So I'm on a transformative journey, but the transformative journey for me is almost done. And now I'm on the preventative journey because I want to have more time with my son.
Yeah.
But
So
you know
these
what?
journeys-
People need to hear that first story that you said before you said I'm on a transformative journey. There is so many people listening to this right now that might be 300, 400 pounds. And they're
Right.
like, there's no hope for me, right? This guy's not talking about me. You were that guy.
Yeah.
I-
And by the way,
I
Brian.
am that guy.
Right. And by the way,
Because
Brian.
if I slip, my body type, I've always been big.
Yeah.
I've just managed to use it in different ways. So like when I threw competitively, I was 350. I was a lot healthier. But then
Right.
when I got injured, I would drop down to, you know, I carried weight between 260 and 290 as my normal weight. And now I'm carrying that 230 to 245 as my normal weight. And it's weird. When I went in to put on a pair of pants and the guy goes, what size do you need? I said, I need a 36. He goes, no, you need a 34. I said, son, I haven't worn a 30. And I used the word son because I'm 50 now. I said, I haven't worn a 34 since I was in 8th grade. He goes, I'll tell you what, if you put these on and they don't fit, I'll buy your pants for you.
There you go.
I put them on and I gave out the loudest woo! I walked out and I was like, check me out. I'm wearing a pair of 34s, baby. I was in
awesome.
8th grade and I was 188 pounds. Learn a 34 in 8th
Wow.
grade. That was the last time I put on a pair of 34s.
Yeah. So when Mike mentioned earlier the amount of people listening to the show, we're in 19 countries now.
20.
Oh, 20. I'm sorry. We're in 20 countries now. So, you know, we're not, our reach is far, which is cool. So that part of your life, that is something definitely when we have you back on, you know, we can kind of touch, because we've kind of, Mike knows my story and stuff, you know, too, that I was at the time, when I was drinking probably about 230s, you know, and then before
Oh, yeah.
next year, just about 216. And then, you know, so our end game is the same, but our approach is different just because it wasn't the knowledge that we have now with everything that's social media wise, because that's one of the benefits of technology is learning all we can learn from.
Well, the
being-
cool thing for
yeah.
me is I listen to this kind of stuff all the time.
Right.
And to meet somebody who
Right,
has
there he
done
is.
the same thing and then applied it to their life, you went one step further than I did in that you had some serious injuries that you needed to try something different, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to go the route that everybody else goes. So let's try this and see if it works. And holy crap, not
Yeah.
only did it worked either twice as fast or 70 or 80% faster in some cases. So not only is it worth trying, it works, right?
Well, it goes back to this too, is right before the show started, I just finished another session of hyperbaric oxygen. And I'm a big believer in oxygen therapy. I started using something called EWAT, which is exercise oxygen therapy. You'll see it in movies where they're on a treadmill or something. They have a mask on and they're getting. Well, we as we walk and breathe, we're breathing 18 to 22% oxygen. So when you get a chance to hyperoxygenate your body, you can actually infiltrate your body with oxygen and push it to that 90%. Under hyperbaric, you're at 100% under pressure. And what that does is that actually fills your body, not just your breath, but your veins, your blood, your bones, your skin. It just hyperoxygenates everything. So it allows things to move better. So when you're doing
What do you feel
alternative
like when you're
therapies,
done
like-
with that?
What's that?
What do you feel like when you're done with that?
Amazing.
Like
Because
20
you're
years younger,
clear.
like 20 years old.
Well, no,
Okay.
it's a clarity because your body is so
Okay.
well oxygenated that things are just firing differently.
Okay.
Like my brain
Okay.
over the last I
Your
started doing
synapses are
EWAT,
firing quicker. Okay.
and
Okay.
so when you're doing regenerative therapies like like stem cells or regenerative factors
Yeah.
or peptides, because it
Right.
helps with the circulation, the stuff's getting to where it needs to go. Now, the first thing that gets attacked when you use peptides is places of inflammation. So
Okay.
that's the idea of like the BPC 157 TB 500, which is what a lot of people are using for recovery, is that actually works on inflammation. So it actually helps to reduce those pain points. And again, our body is being told our brain has no pain receptors. If I
Right.
cut open your head and I worked on your brain, I would not have to give you pain medication.
Well, they did it back in the day. They did lobotomies on people
Correct.
back before they knew that wasn't,
Working.
ethically correct. Let me
So-
ask you this. Chris and
Yes.
I both have the same injury, right? We have degenerative disc disease in our neck. So, the bones are starting to rub together. What does that do for something like that?
Well, first of all, it's going to reduce the inflammation. It's going to help to actually deal with the tissues around it. You're going to need to go the one step further into the regenerative factors and actually have regenerative factors injected into the points. Like my knees are osteoarthritis, and that's what I've been treating on those.
Okay.
And then do intravenous. But then what you'll do is your peptide stack will actually help with inflammation, the ability of fluid to move, and actually healing and delivering the blood to those areas that help those tissues.
Nice.
Awesome.
So it's kind of like it's the same kind of concept as stem cells, but peptides are more available than the stem cells are. Because isn't stem cells, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that something you inject to help regenerate and repair?
Well, stem cells can become anything.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
so you can stem cell. That's why we call them regenerative factors.
Okay.
They don't have a personality. So essentially, wherever you inject them, they go to the places where you need them, and then
Okay.
they take on the personality of like your cartilage, or they take on the
Okay.
personality of a blood vessel, or that's why they found that they can regrow somebody's ear inside somebody's stomach. Because if you give it the right signaling, you can actually grow something, because they can become anything. That's what stem cells can become.
Oh, okay.
We become
That
people
makes sense.
from stem cells.
Right.
Peptides are proteins that aid in the way your body processes.
Okay.
So it's just an aid for that. And a lot of them are short. They're short lived, so they have a very short half life, which is why you take them on a certain, like I take a certain things.
I'm
twice
glad
a
you
day.
described it like that, because
Yeah.
now it makes way more sense to me.
Yep.
So
Like
you
I said,
take a
and
pep.
here's-
So a
Go ahead.
peptide cycle would be what, like 7 days on, 5
Thank
days
you.
off.
We never
something like-
finished that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
so what's a
it's
peptide
different
cycle?
for every peptide. So
Sure.
there's some stuff that I'm going to take for 8 weeks, and then I'll take 8 weeks off. There's some stuff I'm going to take 5 days a week, take 2 days off. I'll do that
Okay.
for 6 to 10 weeks.
Okay.
It depends on what my needs are. And this is what's crucial, is that there's no cut and dry
Right.
for every single person.
It's
This
it's
is something
your
you
body's
have to
gonna-
learn your body.
Okay, so if I started the peptides for my degenerating neck, right, my stuff, so it's one of those things you just kind of got to do it and see how you feel to understand what the cycle is.
Well, there's a baseline,
Okay,
and I could build you a stack
okay,
and then tell you how to do it for the next 6 months.
okay,
I tell you when to stop, when to start, what to take at certain times.
right,
They're not anabolic steroids. They're not medicines. They're
Okay.
not any of that stuff. So
Right.
what
Protein.
you're going to have is
it's protein.
when we stop taking them, it's called a washout period. Essentially,
Okay.
what it's doing is allowing those receptor sites to calm down,
Okay.
not be infiltrated, so
Okay.
that when you restart again, that they can absorb all that stuff again. Because we build up an immunity, just like we do if we take
Sure.
something over and over again, we're going to
Yeah.
build up an immunity towards it, right?
Sure.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to avoid, is ever building up an immunity towards it. Now
Okay.
we're going to see, just so you guys know, in the next 10 years, we're going to see things happen on a cellular level at a rate that we've never seen. They're going to unlock certain things like the ability of the body to continually build muscle. That's going to make anabolic steroids look like a 1970s Pinto sitting on a shelf.
Wow, right
So
on.
where we're heading with this stuff is so far advanced. This is just the opportunity now to get people on that journey and start to feel good about themselves. At 50, I feel better now than I did in my 30s. I'm benching over 300.
I hear that from so many
Yeah.
people now.
Yep.
And I want to feel that same way, right? I mean, I'm not like decrepit, but having Chris will tell you, this neck, it messes with things you want to do a lot of times, right?
Yes.
Well, it makes you
Like,
hesitate to do certain things.
For sure.
And after an injury, like when I went to go throw on Saturday, my first few throws was, is my knee going to hold up? Well, after I got past the first
Yeah.
few throws, I'm like, hey, I'm good. My fifth throw, I threw
good, yeah.
better than I did 6 weeks before my injury, and I haven't thrown in a meet in 6 weeks. I haven't even thrown in a practice a full throw. And then on my sixth
Right.
throw, I blow up my hernia.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, go get it fixed and come back next season. I'm
my knee
not
still
even
works.
I'm 48 hours post surgery right now. So if you look at
Yeah.
this is not
Yeah.
me. I'm not like sitting in there sulking about it. I went to work the next
No.
day.
Yeah.
I went right to therapy. I'm ready to go, and here I am talking to you. I'm
No,
just excited as I
Well,
would
yeah,
be.
yeah. When I
I'll
texted him
throw-
earlier, I texted him earlier today. I was like, "Hey, dude, I know, all things considered, you still down for days?" He's like, "Absolutely."
I'll throw myself under the bus before we recorded the show. I told him, I said, I'd be laying on the couch and somebody'd be waiting on me hand and foot, and I'd be crying like a sissy because
Right.
you're going the modern route, right? So I think you just proved that here's a guy who 48 hours ago was literally having surgery on one of the worst hernias anybody could ever have. And now he's sitting here and he's got all the energy in the world talking to us.
And
He's
you're
not
not
all
on any, and
drugged
you're not
up on
right.
painkillers.
I was going to say that. Yeah, not on painkillers at all.
Nope. I haven't taken a single thing. So they gave me morphine at the
course they
hospital, and then they shot me up with one shot of fentanyl. Then they gave me some D thing. I don't remember what
Right.
it was. And I was like, they gave me 3 prescriptions to come home with. They're sitting on the counter. They haven't even come out of the bags. I don't believe in that. I don't even take aspirin. I don't take cough medicines. I don't take aspirins. I don't believe in that. The other thing is that narcotics have a tendency to block you up. So for the last 2 days, I've been just like waiting to get past the morphine shots from Saturday.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah.
like, the Dilaudid is what they gave me. The Dilaudid
Yeah.
was the only stuff that even worked, which was crazy. So
I couldn't think of it. I had it on the
Yep.
tip of my tongue.
Yeah, me
And
too.
And I'll agree with you. The narcotics block you up because I'll tell you, when I told my recovery story, it blocked me up so bad that I was suffering from psychosis, right? So my body was just in chaos, on a level I can't even describe. I was just next to death. But in the middle of all that, I was losing my mind at the same time. So it was a whole lot of fun during that.
Well, and the weird thing is doctors and like your dad, like he believed in conventional medicine because that's ingrained in us from day number one, right? Like day number one, it's doctors know best. Doctors know best, right? You go to the doctor for physicals. You have a cold, you have a flu, you have pain, all that kind of stuff. We're always going and gravitating towards medical professionals because they're the ones that have degrees. There's the one that went to school and all that kind of jazz. They're the
And
ones
what
that are
did we
supposed to-
talk about with
Right.
Peter from Australia? There's 2
Right.
countries
Uh-huh.
on Earth
That allow pharmaceutical advertising.
pharmaceuticals to advertise on TV. The United
America?
States
Yep.
and New Zealand.
And New Zealand, or was it Australia? Yeah.
Zealand.
The only two.
That's it.
The only two in the entire world that allow pharmaceutical ads.
So the
That's
reason
it.
I say that is because every day it's inundated in you that Brian said it earlier. You need this for this. You need this for that. You need this for the other thing.
Yep.
If
I mean,
you're
back-
watching regular TV, like every other commercial is a drug, right?
Well, and think about it in the 50s when the TV first started coming out, right? What did they advertise? Geritol. I don't know what the hell Geritol was for, but right? Remember that? You see those
Yep.
like Geritol, a spoonful, and
It was
Mary
for old
Poppins.
people.
And Mary Poppins, a spoonful of sugar helps medicine go down. It's in a Disney movie that is a classic. So it's all about medicate. And I'm guilty of it.
And look at what we do. What do? We start giving kids. Oh, you have a headache? We start giving them aspirin, and then we diagnose these kids because we want to put them in boxes.
Exactly.
We start diagnosing. If I was in today's world, I would have been diagnosed ADHD.
Oh, sure.
Back, and I would have been medicated, and that would have stifled everything that I grew up to be, the person I am.
Yep.
But we start giving these kids medications with alters, and then not just that, we give them all this processed bullshit
Yep.
that we put into them from the cereals on up. We've been very fortunate with Little B that Jess and I have a very strict understanding of what we're giving him. He's eaten no cereals. He's had no baby foods. He gets no formulas. He still breastfeeds, and instead of juices and waters, he gets electrolytes. And I have a Pedia version of electrolytes that he gets 3 times a day.
Right on.
And he loves it, but he will never get juice. He doesn't drink milk. He drinks very, 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 very little milk if he gets any at all. But his process, his food, he started eating solid food at 8 months. He was eating avocado. He was eating steak. He was eating lamb. He was eating anything that we would make that would be wholesome. That would be. But he has not gotten anything processed. He gets none of this bullshit cereal because it's fortified with iron, and that was the first thing that you need to get him iron fortified cereal. No, that's trash.
Yeah.
It's trash.
Yeah, and
my little dude's a
and see-
badass right now.
I love that,
Right,
man.
right.
I love that.
And here's the thing about Brian, because I've known him for so long. There were times when I'd be with Brian and we'd stop at a McDonald's and he would get 4 Big Macs, 3 Diet Cokes, 6 fries. So that shows you the transformation of not only who he is as an individual, but just the life. Because I don't call it, like you said, biohacking instead of biohacking is bad bioengineering, right? My
Biooptimization.
concept, right. So my thing is, it's not a diet; it's a lifestyle.
Correct.
Diets don't work. Lifestyles do. Change your
Right.
life, change your lifestyle, and you'll be better for it at the end of the day. So, like you said, instead of biohacking, it's bioengineering. It's the same concept, right? So what you put in is how you feel when, like Nikki and I stopped breads, bad starches, crackers. I've cheated a little bit on crackers because but and we've had a couple little slip ups on
Everything in moderation.
right on the starches and the tortillas and stuff. But
It's not a slip up, Chris. It's life, man.
well, I know, but it's so, and I've noticed a difference because my neck it would tingle and go numb and stuff like that. So the part up there, but now I'm still trying to figure out what's the middle of the back pain and where that coming from, which I think is a direct result of the neck. It's just I don't have the inflammation because I stopped all the bad starches and stuff. So the whole pep type thing, which I've been super interested in, and I had no idea how deep you dove into it. I mean, you showed me, Nikki and I, your regiment a couple weeks ago as far as supplements and peptides and all that kind of jazz. So I knew you had some understanding of it, but this is just like,
Yeah, it was awesome.
I spend 2 to 3 hours a day in research, and that research I've surrounded myself with doctors that are in this field.
Yeah.
To the point where when I came home from the hospital, went to hyperbaric, I was
Yeah.
posting online. I had a doctor here doing regenerative factors because he was leaving town the next day. He drove
Yeah.
to my house an hour and 20 minutes to do
Nice.
regenerative factors for me at 8 o'clock at night.
That's
Now
awesome.
that is unheard of. And he just said, "Hey, I saw that you were in the hospital. Let's get you some
Yeah.
regenerative factors before I leave for Florida." And the thing is once you talk about putting yourself with the right people.
Mm-hmm.
It's about surrounding yourself with the ability to have this knowledge. So if I have a question, I can get it answered.
Sure.
But here's the crazy part: I deal with medical doctors that study this stuff all the time that come to me for
Yeah.
answers for things
Yeah.
because I've actually gone deeper in certain subjects than they have.
Nice. That's awesome.
That is really cool. I learned so much, and I'm just sitting here thinking I learned just enough to know I got to go back and listen to it again, right? So I'm like Chris, I've been super interested in it, and I've heard just bits and pieces from different doctors. Like I think Dr. Rhonda Patrick talks about it a lot, but she only talks about a little portion. You just did a deep dive on what they are, how they're used. I understand them way better now, and I'm super curious about talking to you and trying something like that to just give it a shot. What can it hurt? It's a protein, and if it helps, yay. Now I
Yeah.
can do things that I wanted to do that I have been putting off, right?
Well, here's the number one thing that when I post online, I post about my journey, and I just do it because I'm excited. And like I
Yeah.
said, if I can reach one person, I have people that are going to the Oxygen Wellness Clinic where I go now because they saw what I'm
Right.
going through, and now they're doing therapies and they're sending me messages. Hey, thank you for posting that.
Right.
So that's why I post as much as I do. But here's the one thing that comes up every single time: what's it cost? And all I can tell people is, what's it cost to be sick?
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. There's things cost money,
Sure.
but I would rather not be tied up in bed. I
Yeah.
would rather not be in pain. I'd rather not be aching and worried about what's going to break on me. I see a 65-year-old man, and I think to myself, my son's going to be 15 when I'm 65.
Yeah.
Do I want to be the old man that's shuffling around at 65, or do I want to be that badass dad that's still competing in the shot putting the discus?
Badass dad, man.
You know,
Damn right.
I'm 50. I'm throwing up weight in the gym that I didn't throw up since I was in my 30s. I feel good. Yes, I've gone through some injuries because I'm pushing myself to another level, but I'm doing that intentionally. I'm doing
Right.
it because I'm like, I don't want to hold back. I want to give all that I can give. I only have
And I don't think-
so much time.
Not to interrupt you, but I don't think I can stress enough that this is a guy that didn't live his whole life like this. This is a
Right.
guy that went from being broken down and overweight at an unprecedented level to sitting here talking to you saying, I'm going to the gym and I'm kicking ass, right?
Yeah, this is like 2 years, right, Brian?
It's so
About a 2-year
impressive.
journey.
August 4th, 2022 was the primary.
Okay.
And we were watching the video, and I told my dad, I'm gonna turn this around. August 5th, my biggest problem wasn't even junk food or sodas. 'Cause I don't drink that or eat that. My biggest thing was I eat pasta 5 days a week. I love bread, and I drink a gallon of milk a day. And that
Yeah.
was pretty
I
much
love
what I was. I was a
Everything
pasta-
except dairy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm allergic to dairy, so I don't do that, but I love breads and pastas, man.
He froze.
Yeah, I do believe so.
Brian. Brian.
I lost
there
you
he
guys
is.
for a second. So
You're good. You're good. It
Yeah, you
happens.
froze up for a second. It's all
So,
good.
so I ate a lot of pasta, ate a lot of bread, and I drank a lot of milk, and that was pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it was that got me to where I was. I would sit down and just eat and eat and eat. I love macaroni and cheese. I'd eat macaroni and cheese, 3-4 times a week, and
Mm-hmm.
so I turned myself on 20 days, starting on the 5th of August 2022. By August 25th, I had already lost 20 pounds, hadn't touched the gym. I go to the gym on August 25th. I get on the elliptical. Now, this is a guy who used to bench over 500. He used to squat over 7. I was a power lifter. I was a thrower. I get on the elliptical for 15 minutes, and I feel like I'm going to die. I walk outside and I start throwing up. And I call my dad, and I'm like, you're never going to fucking believe this. And he's like, well, just remember, and goes back to this, inch by inch is a cinch,
There you
and
go.
that's what he said. So I would just progressively, hey, make sure I'm eating right. And a year and a half later, so that was August 4th, I started at 370. On November 13th in 2023,
Yep.
15 months, right at 15 months, I was down to a 245.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Congratulations.
Lifestyle change, man. And that was before the peptides and before the supplements, right? That was
The
just you
peptides
kind of.
started. I started getting my dad had started getting sick in that September, and I started getting into the peptides. I started using a very small amount of stuff at
Right.
that point. That's what set me off on that thing. And then with his cancers, I went deep into it and started realizing, and then I was my own guinea pig. So
Right.
I mean, there still wasn't. There's still, even to this day, you've said it. There's so many little tidbits and snippets out there, but nobody really gets into it because they're not really promoting something they've done. They're just promoting stuff that they're seeing because they're trying to sell you some shit.
Yeah.
Realistically,
Or in her case, like she read about it, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
I've read about how people are doing this, and it was maybe there was a peer review paper or something.
I have an entire refrigerator
He does.
that looks like a pharmacy.
He does. He showed it to me. Nikki and I were on a FaceTime with him, and he's like, "Hey, check out my regimen." And we're just like, "What?"
That's awesome.
Just it's.
I'm just so happy it worked for you,
Yeah.
to think about where you were and where you're at now. And for Christ's sake, you had surgery 48 hours ago and you're still full of all this energy to talk about how positive this is. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
No,
no,
part
it's
of that's just because it's Brian Morris. I mean, that's just that's just his personality.
no, helping people. I feel like I said, I fully believe that after 30, especially in our 40s, I put up a post the other day, and I was like, hey, I need a referral for a cardiologist. And I cannot believe how many of my friends in their mid 40s to mid 50s are already seeing cardiologists. And there's 100 something referrals on there from people who are actually seeing cardiologists. And I'm like, therein lies the problem. We're all on this journey of being transformative or preventative. And realistically, if you're not, you're on the pathway to just being that 65-year-old man that's shuffling his feet. And I don't want to be that guy.
No.
And that is
Nor do I.
no, and that is a perfect way to wrap this thing up. That's Brian Morse of We Fix Ugly Pools. You can find him on YouTube at wefixuglypools.com, right? Or just at Brian Morse. He's there. Just go find him. We're going to have you back on. We're going to do a whole show on peptides. Once you get your website up and running, let me know, and then we'll get that scheduled out. I've known you forever and ever, so none of this is a surprise of how, because I know how you see something and you're dialed in. You're kind of like me like that. Mike, you have any thoughts about for Brian before we wrap it all up?
No, definitely looking forward to having you back, and thanks for.
Yeah.
I had no idea we were going to go down that road, so that was awesome for sure.
Well, and see, that's the cool thing about our show, Brian. There's no agenda. There's no agenda. It's a conversation. It's not an interview. It's kind of like how I did the radio show, right? There was never. They would give me shit all the time because I wasn't always talking real estate. It's like, I don't want to just talk real estate, man. I want to talk about life.
Yeah.
And we always wrap the show up like this. Don't let the bad days win. If you don't wake up tomorrow, somebody who loves you is going to miss you. Ann Burrell just apparently took her own life. She was found, if you don't know who Ann Burrell is, she's a Food Network star that had all kinds of shows and stuff. She was found unresponsive this past Tuesday morning in her shower with over 100 different assortment of pills. So they're thinking she took her own life, which really?
So sad.
Really? I mean, it's there's always a better way. Reach out to somebody. Somebody loves you. Somebody will miss you. So don't take your life because you're having a bad day. Do not let the bad days win. It will be better tomorrow when you wake up and start all over. Right?
Amen.
Inch by inch, baby.
Amen.
I love that too.
Inch by inch, man. Love you, Brian. Love you, Mike.
Love you guys too. Vent, I appreciate
Love you too,
all.
brothers.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you, Brian.
Yeah. Tell little B we said hi.
Absolutely.
And happy birthday.
Happy birthday, little B.